Smooze or lose. Get your geek on. Smooze or lose. Get your geek on. Sci-fi, comics, fantasy, so much more. Just come and see. Smooze or lose.
Okay, Schmooze or Loons fans, we are honored and blessed. We have a very special guest on our show, and we'd like to welcome a talented martial artist and actor, Darryl Vidal. Darryl Vidal is known for a significant role and stunt work in the iconic movie The Karate Kid, and we'll delve into his fascinating experiences on set, including how he was selected for the movie, things like that, and his involvement as a stuntman, and possibly, I think he created the idea of the crane kick for the movie. Okay, we'll also discuss his lifelong dedication to martial arts and so many other things. This guy is a Renaissance person. And let me tell you, he's an educator, he's a martial artist, lifelong, he's a teacher, actor, stunt double, and a book author. Me being a martial artist, I know, lifetime martial artist, Darryl's one too. We may go off on some type of long monologue, diatribe, different types of conversations and digress way too much into martial arts. But first, I want to talk about this guy just come out with a book. And this is why I'm saying he's a Renaissance guy. He does a little bit of everything. And, the phrase, there's a jack of all trade, master of none. This guy's a jack of many trades and a master of many. So, Darryl, I'm just so honored to have you on here. I've been a lifelong Karate Kid fan, and let's start talking about your book, because I'm afraid if we talk about martial arts, we won't get to your book. And I'm really fascinated with what you've done with this and what's happening with it. And it looks like the name of it is MindCraft,
Right.
the Educational Singularity. And
That's
this would be, is it a sci-fi?
Yes, sci-fi thriller about AI and education.
Okay, so I purposely didn't read much about this book.
Okay.
It's because that way I could ask you the right
Sure.
questions. And I think did it come out December 10th? Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. This came out.
And
Yep.
and people can order this on Amazon,
That's correct.
Borders,
Yeah.
places like that. Okay, we'll maybe post something at the end of the video where people can find links and they can
Anywhere
order your
books are
video.
sold. Yep.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about it without giving away too much.
Yeah, I'm an expert at that, obviously. But you talked a little bit about my background. I have a regular job, outside of all the martial arts stuff. And in my career, I do technology for education. I work for school district. I do strategic planning for large scale, technology programs going back 30 plus years. So I've always been in the realm of education and technology and students and, and doing large scale technology programs. And with the advent of AI, it really started to make things interesting, right? So a lot of challenges with AI. How are we going to use it in the classroom? How is it going to affect things? Are kids going to use it to cheat? All these different things. And so I started working on a plot line about this gaming system, and of course I kind of took the whole Minecraft gaming world and kind of one-offed it with Minecraft. And so the concept is there's a global gaming phenomenon called Minecraft, and much like the real game, it's very addictive, arcade style games, but it's grown to the point where everybody plays it, because of AI. Language is no longer a barrier, and because of technology, global interaction is no longer a barrier. So people are able to, form teams and talk with each other and compete on a global scale. And so the Minecraft Corporation comes out with the idea of doing an Olympic style competition where, teams from different regions compete against each other, and it will culminate in a global a global competition.
So it's kind of like Olympics with virtual reality in a sense.
Exactly.
Wow, this is pretty interesting. I like this.
Well, and then in the other side of the world at the same time is this giant software company called Edunex, which is kind of like the Microsoft of education software, because it is what's called a learning management system. It's supposed to encompass all the things for education. It has all your classes, all your homework, all your teachers are in it, and it using AI to adapt the learning uh, process into that's something that's totally customized to the individual.
Yeah.
Yeah. So both of them become these global entities, these giant corporations. And then at the beginning of the book, Edunex buys Minecraft. And then there's a lot of questions like, wait a minute, these are two giant corporations. Is this like antitrust? What's going on? And as they start to delve into that question, the digital mavericks, which is the robotics team, led by the star Justin Turner, starts to think that there may be an underlying motive or agenda that this massive conglomerate is hiding, and so that's the thing. And
So
it
they're
goes
trying to
on.
figure out what's the motive behind what's
Yeah,
really happening.
exactly.
So there's some foreboding going on early in the
Absolutely.
book.
And
I
and the
like that.
question becomes like, what is AI's role? Is AI fooling us? A lot of it is them talking to, the AI bots, while things start to impact people. And one of the things that starts showing signs is that uh, things that are happening in the game start happening and affecting them in their real life. People are getting impacted. They're getting hurt. Maybe
Well,
somebody.
I'm starting to get this vibe that this is a really interesting sci-fi book for entertainment, but you're putting a lot of educational things into this
Yeah,
and having people start to think about what's really happening with AI and
exactly.
like is it's very smart what you're doing because I think AI right now so new in a sense that we don't know what's happening, how far this is
Exactly.
going to go. I know a lot
It's
of artists are upset because now people are doing AI art instead of
Yep.
hiring
Yep.
artists to do book covers, things like
Yep.
that. And also, we don't know how it's affecting us sociologically, things like that.
Right.
Kids living in literally an alternate universe and how
Exactly.
that's going to spill in. So I'm guessing your book is
It's
educating
trying
us.
yeah, it's causing us to question because unlike movies like Ready Player One or Hunger Games, which I kind of draw as a parallel, this is near future. This is not dystopian future. This is like 2 years from now, and it's something that could literally happen. And then
Yes.
and then the
Wow.
questions become about you know who's driving the AI, what's driving, what are the management protocols that are driving these things and why.
and and the thing is too is like I like I said I haven't read your book but I'm guessing
Right.
and this is what I like about it. I think that the first thing is this fear of which is there some entity that's now into this, meaning like a government body or some type of
Exactly.
sinister corporation that doesn't have the best interests of humanity in
Right.
mind. What is it? Is this like a big psyop mind control thing?
Exactly. And
Wow.
you just mentioned the key word about mind control because that's what they stumble into is are they being manipulated? Are they being brainwashed? What is the why? Once these corporations have global, they become global entities. What could possibly happen? What could happen with
Wow.
government? What could happen with you know mankind?
This
And
this this isn't science fiction. This is what we're literally stepping into. And I think
exactly.
this is genius for you to come out with this book at this time. These are the
Yeah.
questions that need to be asked.
Right. And like I said, it's not dystopian future. It's tomorrow. So everything that kind of happens in the book could conceivably happen, next week.
Wow. This is very powerful and I think very timely. And I think it's going to reach a lot of people in the sense that you're not putting it out just as like a lecturing educational questionnaire of like, what are we going to do with this? You're putting out as entertainment
Yes.
and you're educating people through entertainment where you're going to reach a lot more people
Right.
that needs to question this because this is something that's bothered me. And so remember when the Matrix come out
Absolutely.
and you
Absolutely.
realize you're in and the whole cusp of the movie was waking up and finding out I'm in a matrix, I'm not in
Hmm.
reality, and I've been plugged into this big computer and I'm living into a fantasy world. But
Exactly.
now it looks like we're willfully towards plug me
That's
into
the
the
question.
Matrix.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Book, by the way, as you can tell, I'm a sci-fi fan.
Oh
So
yeah,
you're
I can, and I want to tell you that the roots go all the way back to Terminator. Remember with Skynet and the idea of AI becoming self-aware, uh, and it's called the educational singularity, right? It's not just
yes.
AI taking over, but it's AI taking over all the kids, you know,
Wow.
in the
Which would
world.
even be more powerful in a sense, because then who's going to fight against it when everybody is a part of it and inside of it?
Exactly, you got it.
Wow, that's pretty genius. I love it. And up here in Boston, they have Boston robotics and things, and they're really
Sure.
pushing the envelope on what they can do with
Yes.
robots. And I've
Yeah.
seen a lot of this stuff, and it is scary. And
Yeah.
I, right in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, what if there's a consciousness put into these, and they keep progressing so fast.
Right.
They're going to be
Exactly.
faster than humans, more
Yeah.
dangerous than humans physically. But what if this is all connected to
I mean,
something that's very sinister?
Boston Robotics is the company that has a robot that does the crane kick.
Gee,
But
it's a small world, isn't it?
yeah, but I love the how it sparked your interest because anybody who's paying attention, which is a lot of people, not everybody, should be asking these questions now. If you've
I
used it,
completely agree.
yeah, if you've used AI, you start to wonder. It's like, okay, what are the biases built into this? What are driving this agenda? And so that's the premise, and hopefully that a lot of people pick it up and read it.
I think one of the most powerful ways to brainwash anyone is to they don't know they're being brainwashed. That's the whole part of how it
Right.
works so well, because
Mm-hmm.
somebody's trying to manipulate you right there. You put up a conscious wall
Mm-hmm.
that inhibits that, and you get some what they call cognitive dissonance going on.
Yes, absolutely,
So there's no
absolutely.
cognitive dissonance here because people are willfully jumping into
That's right.
this. And
That's
and
right.
I've even seen I do a lot of writing myself. I write, written several books. I do fantasy, and I haven't
Mm-hmm.
touched anything like this. I think this is really great. Um, but so now AI has editing, so you can
Yes.
write something, and a lot of people are using it as and putting a lot of editors
Mm-hmm.
out of work.
Right.
And I fooled around, just like, okay, I'm gonna put this into editing. I'm gonna write something, and then I'll read it. And I've noticed that if it's information I've written that is actual, like factual based, not fiction, so like it's nonfiction I'm writing,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll check the facts. AI a lot of times does not do the facts correct.
That's right. AI can
And I'm
lie.
like, wow. I'm
Yep.
like, that is not the actual facts happening here. But just think if an entity or some person controlling all this starts bending the facts a certain way, and how you can control
Mm-hmm.
society. And it's like the whole thing of 1984, the books, Orwell,
Yeah.
like how you control society, you control the media, you control all the images people are seeing, and so you're controlling their world. It's almost like it becomes a god to them.
Well,
And
you're touching on all the factors that comprise the book,
I will tell
because
you this much: I'm dying to read it. By the way, the more I'm talking to you, I'm like, man, this
all
is
right.
sounding good.
Well, it's a fast read. I mean, it's not a 1,000 pager, and I think once you break it in, anybody who has an interest in technology or has tried to use AI, this is it's gonna grab you right away because it's like I said, it's near future, and all the things that you talked about with Matrix or um, Terminator and all these things that have played with the idea of iRobot, Asimov.
Yeah, yeah, Isaac Asimov,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. There are all themes that are brought back into the story, and it's so plausible, it's scary.
It's like I feel you on this, and like it's amazing. Like Albert Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Well, think about everything you just talked about was in the human imagination of like, what if robots go this far? What if computers go this far? What if artificial intelligence goes this far?
Right.
And I mean, and look what, Isaac Asimov was a lot of people know him like the Foundation and all that stuff, the iRobot. A lot of people don't know he also took his creative mind as a physicist. He created the slingshot effect, where
Right.
like you take a satellite into a gravity well and it launches, and NASA started using it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's how
it's
we
like,
start traveling around the moon. Right?
yeah. So using a gravity well to get the speed. So, and the reason I'm bringing this up is guy with creative mind, a fiction writer, and he is able to like look into the future. Like, we're gonna get this technology, and we're gonna be able to do this. And NASA did that, just like what you're doing right now. What you're saying, like, look, like it doesn't. But in this case, you used a lot of imagination to pull all this together. But also, it doesn't take as much imagination, a sense of like to see it happening now. It's like it's right in front of us.
It is. It really is.
It's
This,
really
like I
like,
said,
wow.
this could happen. Like now, it could be happening. And here's a couple of things. I don't know if you've watched on Netflix. If you watch Black Mirror.
No.
Okay. Well,
I'm behind on my Netflix.
Yeah. There's a whole series of techno thrillers, and one of them is in the series called Black Mirror, and one of them is a concept of uh, using hypnotism, and and dream state, and so there's a little thought process there that goes on. What if you think about virtual reality, right? I put glasses on, I put gloves on, so I can have a completely immersive experience. Yep. What happens if I use that to hypnotize you? You don't know it. And while you're hypnotizing, I use techniques like Monarch and MK Ultra.
Monarch, yes. This
right?
is a lot. Yeah, I know. I've read all this stuff. I'm right there with you.
Yep.
I almost brought Monarch up. I was like, wow, this is starting to sound like, and I don't want to get into conspiracy. Yeah. I don't get into conspiracy theories, but a lot of conspiracies that talked about aren't conspiracies anymore. They're in fact right in front of us.
They are, and a lot of this stuff, could happen. And so, yeah, that's really how it is. And I love the fact that you've done a lot of reading, and like I have, into that area. So, we've scared ourselves, right?
Yeah. Well, I think, and we can get into martial arts just a little bit here, because I think this is all connected. How many years have you done martial arts now?
Oh, well, yeah, 45. Yeah.
45 years?
Yeah, 50.
Yeah, see, about as long as I have. I think I started in 1977 and training from my dad. Same time. Yeah, and so we've been traveling this same road. But being a martial artist, most people understand we're not about fighting and killing people. It's about preservation of life. It's about self-defense, things like that. But it makes you think differently, because this as a martial artist, you have to be able, you have to keep your mind, you have to be aware of your surroundings.
Right.
And in a fight, you have to kind of read what's coming. And so Absolutely. You do this for years. And this type of thinking, of like tactical thinking, preemptive thinking of things right. that could happen to you to defend yourself. That's what defense is all about, preemptive preparation.
Yes.
That's all martial arts is. And this as well as I do.
So many other aspects of that, right? Like I also teach Eskrima, right? Fighting.
Yeah, that's the Filipino, yes. Yeah.
That's right. And one of the things that happens over time is that you start to see the curvature of the attack angle, and then you can anticipate it. So a lot of times they'll say that in Eskrima, people can see things in slow motion, and it's because of this concept that you're talking about.
It absolutely happens, but it takes years to do that. And I thought that was crazy. Like when my dad first talked about what you said, the slow motion, I was like, what do you mean? And some of his teachers, they would stand and they would watch, like they would stand up where water's dripping. They would stand up where like a jug, and they would watch the water drop, and they would focus. And it's not like you're slowing your mind down, but you're speeding your mind so much that it calms. Mm-hmm. And yes. You're so aware the drop starts slowing.
Right.
and it
It's the
starts
same concept.
flowing, and it finally happened. And then, I mean, and then also like in martial arts, and I know you know this, you're so used to watching someone move in front of you, like just a little shoulder motion, just a little thing that no one would ever pick up, and you don't even know that you're picking it up half the time, but you know it, and
Right.
you're already reacting.
That's right.
The person moves, but
so there's
years
2
develop.
points. 2 points that you just talked about that really stuck with me just now. Is one, it's the Matrix, right? Everything slows down, but it's the
Yes.
same concept. And this thing about what you just said is I teach my students, okay, when you're sparring, here somebody's in this angle, we're watching for movement from this shoulder. But if I compare the shoulder to the horizon behind it, that's where I can really see the subtleness of the movement. It's not just the shoulder, but it's the shoulder and everything around it that we can start to pick up on. So same sort of concept.
And it's almost like your brain picks up on this subconsciously that you don't even have to think about. It just becomes a natural over years and years.
Right.
And so this type of awareness is what I'm seeing, how you're looking into what's happening with this virtual reality, all this AI. Right. You're preemptively like, wow, there's something going on. My brain's telling me, well, I need to look. It's just kind of like what led you into, there's a danger with this. It's the same.
Oh, yeah.
It's that martial art, preemptive martial art awareness you developed. And it works in all areas of your life.
Right.
And
well, think about this. These people who are using virtual reality. What if, like I said, they're being hypnotized and they don't know it? And if you read about MK Ultra and Monarch, you know that multiple personality disorder and disassociation is caused by trauma.
Yes,
right?
like severe PTSD.
Severe trauma, right? What if I could do that while I'm hypnotizing you? And I could do it, and it seems like 8 hours of suffering, but it only takes a second.
Wow. So literally in seconds, what you're saying is, what if putting somebody into an AI world that you could break their mind in seconds, but what if you kept them into that longer than that seconds needed? How far you could just completely break them, and then what happens is you just clean the slate out.
Yep.
Their
they wake
mind's
back
gone.
up. They think they had a nightmare, but they're sitting in a chair and they're sweating profusely and their heart is racing, but they don't know why. And you can do this over time, right? I can hit you 3 or 4 times like that for a second. And next thing you know, I've got you as a Manchurian candidate.
Yes. And this is exactly what they, like advertising, picked up on. Subliminal messages. We started hearing that in the 80s.
Yes.
And what was that movie? They Live, Rowdy Roddy Piper. Great movie.
Where's my sunglasses?
Exactly. And not to digress, but the fight scene that he had with the guy, he's trying to put the glasses on. My mother, was in the other room watching it, and she was dying laughing. And I just remember that scene so much. It's a great movie.
Yeah,
but
remember that scared me. That movie scared me.
But what you're talking about is this as well.
It is
how there's like a whole other society that's we don't know what's going on the other side. Who's running all the subliminal messages? And there's a
we don't know who and we don't know why.
And to me, it's too fast. Like I think AI has been thrown into and I'm not talking science fiction now. We're talking reality. I think AI is just there's not been any tests done on it. We don't know who's programming this.
Right.
We don't know who's behind this. This could be very dangerous.
Well, I mean, all these Elon Musk and Sam Altman and all these guys have tried to slow down and regulate AI, and it's out of control already. I don't know if you know this.
But, I think Elon Musk actually come out and said we need to put a stop on this at some point, didn't he?
They did. Yeah. They tried to propose a commission to help regulate it. But here's the concept for it. When they started ChatGPT and they initially preloaded it, right? This is back in late 2022. They got it all loaded up and then they taught it Spanish. Okay, so wow, okay, it learned Spanish. The next day, it had taught itself 32 other languages. And then the next day, it could speak every language.
This is pretty scary.
Yeah, think about that. And that's kind of like the basis of Minecraft becoming a global phenomenon because language is no longer a barrier. I told you that right at the very beginning. Time
Yes.
and time across the globally is no longer a barrier. So a lot of these things enable amazing things that you think, oh, this is great. Look, I can just talk in real time and you can hear me in real time. But what else does that mean, right? I mean, is the
Wow.
translation right? You know,
This is just blowing my mind thinking about all this. And,
yeah.
you need to get this
I
book
hope to.
into every high school and college and even in grade school.
Well, maybe with your help, we can do
Let's
that.
do that because this is very important. These are questions that we're not asking enough nor fast enough,
Right.
and it's I think it's already the red alert has already went up, and we're well
All right.
past the
So think about TikTok, right?
yes.
This, I mean, TikTok could be this.
Ran by China, what I've heard. I don't know if that's a rumor, but
Well,
I've heard.
it's owned by China. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So who knows
So
what
what if
they're trying to do?
what if they want to destroy America? Let's just say what if. What if like, hey, we want to corrupt America? Let's destroy the minds of young Americans. Well, maybe they could put an agenda into TikTok to do that.
Are they? Is this
I
happening now?
well,
Do you
I keep my kids off of TikTok to tell
do
you
you
the
know
truth.
that in China, most of the TikTok content is educational?
That should tell us something,
Yeah,
shouldn't it?
yeah, it should. We should
Yeah, it
learn
should tell
something
us.
just from that
And this is
content.
exactly if you're and I'm any parents watching this. I'll just be honest. I don't allow my kids to watch TikTok, and I don't ever want them on it. And even YouTube, we have to monitor because there's so much. We're in it. It's just like I
Okay,
said, like
so let me stop you. Think about what we're saying, right? We're
yes,
saying that here's a technology that's out there already, and we're so afraid of it because we're aware of what it might be doing. But here's my son. He's 35 years old. He's a programmer, so he uses AI. He loves TikTok, and he tells me. I told him about TikTok. I said, "You better. That's run by the Chinese. They're stealing all your information." And he goes, "Dad, I get all my news from TikTok, and I know more about stuff that's going on than you'll ever get from television news or cable network news." And so here's a person who has another perspective on what TikTok can deliver. And when we talk, we can talk politics, we can talk,
yeah,
economics, we can talk anything. And he's right there. He's right there. He doesn't, it's not like he's being brainwashed or anything.
yeah.
He knows what's going on in the world. So,
But the danger is what if an entity controls what news you're seeing
that's
and
right.
what slant of the news? Because now, and not I'm completely apolitical on this, leftist or conservative, who cares? But
Doesn't
what
matter.
I'm saying is that what if you're only seeing news from one side control, and that's going to be your world?
But
And that's to me,
that's the
that's
world
what's so dangerous.
we live in already,
Yeah.
right?
So I grew up, and we're probably similar in age,
Yeah.
and I grew up going to a library and reading books. And these books, if it's a conglomerate of information that whoever wrote this researched from other written sources
Right.
that are hard copied.
Right.
And so this is how I was educated. And I do a lot of theological teaching, things like that of
Okay.
different nature, historical.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is something I'm going to hit you with. And so
Yeah.
a
Ready.
lot of people come to me. You're like already green kick me in the face or back. So anyway, so um, uh, I'm I teach like a lot of theological things, philosophical I'm
I
not
love
blowing
it.
my horn, but I'm just
No,
saying
no, I love that stuff.
at higher
Yeah.
levels, and because I can read four old dialects of Hebrew and
Oh
Semitic
wow.
languages. So
Okay.
people that's the reason I was involved in like my film work is all documentary stuff. But
I did
anyways,
look into that.
yeah. So people will to me about things and get in debates. And the difference is that my information, I have the solid books that were written, from
Mhm.
centuries back, and let's just say even to the 20s and 30s, and 40s all have books written on this that have cited sources,
Right.
and it's all factual. And then I'll be talking to somebody, not necessarily debating, but like discussing, and they'll start throwing all these facts. And I'll find out that these facts, when I trace them, were created somewhere by someone just throwing an idea out on the internet. And that idea got passed so much that it was believed to be factual when the person just created it out of the air.
Right.
And
think about this. History belongs to the victor.
Yes.
And history books
even
are
before
written.
the internet, that was the truth.
Absolutely. If you go back to history books in Japan, they don't look at World War II as World War II. They call it, the Great Asian, I can't even remember it. They have their own name for it, and all the history leading up to it, and the outcomes is as their view of it. And why wouldn't it?
Absolutely. And I think that's the case. If you look at the Egyptians, you look at the Chinese history, it's what dynasty is in power. That's the viewpoint you're getting from that family.
That's right.
That's in power, whether it's and we know from martial artists, the big war between the Mings wanting the people pro-Ming wanting to overthrow the Qing, which is a whole Shaolin thing going on.
Right.
But if you read the history from that time period, even the fantasy novels they tried to control, like the Three Kingdoms book that was written, the guy that wrote that, they believe might have did it under a pen name because he's afraid of some of the stuff he was putting into this might have got him into trouble, from government officials.
Let's talk about two. Go ahead, finish that.
No. I'm just saying. So this is exactly what we're at. Your book,
right,
is bringing up these issues. Who's in control? Who's controlling our history now? Who's controlling the news? Who's telling us what's happening?
That's right.
And just as a point, I know you probably speak a few languages. I'm guessing.
No, actually, I don't.
I didn't know if you spoke. I speak a few languages, and I will tell you, it's amazing if I hear and I'm not listening in countries, but like I'll hear something in one country and someone's speaking, and they're like, "Oh, blah 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 blah," and so when it's translated on American news, it's exact reverse of what the person just said. Exactly. And I know, and I heard exactly what they said. It's like
only the translator knows, right?
Yes, so, and the American people believe that's exactly what that person said. I don't know how many times I've had to show videos and translate word for word. This is what this person said, but our news is not saying this. So at a greater level, like what your book is heading into, what if the AI and a virtual world that everybody's going into playing a game decides, hey, whoever's controlling this, we're going to control your news. We're going to control the world around you. And you could either raise up a nation of people to be divine. Hey, this group of people is great, and demonize groups of people for no reason.
I mean, just think about what you're saying, because that's been happening throughout history, right? We're not saying anything new. We're talking about things that could happen, but that if we look back, that's already happened. Think about these two contemporaries, Lao Tzu and Confucius.
Absolutely.
Contemporaries, they knew each other, but their philosophies opposite sides, right? Opposite sides of the world. And that's just a nice, comparison, because, they both they share a lot of the same philosophy too. But you're really right along with the themes of my book.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I feel like that me and you have researched some of the same things and come to a lot of the same conclusions, and maybe because we both have a martial arts background and kind of helped us see things the same way.
Well, I don't know. When you train in martial arts and you get past the physical fighting aspects of it, right, most rudimentary components, you have to delve into weaponry, which makes you delve into the law. And you have to delve into history and think about, the roots, Shaolin, Japan, Okinawa, even Brazil and Russia. There's just so many components that you can start to go into a rabbit hole in any direction. And that, I think people like you and I who have been in the world and studied so many aspects of it, just inherently know that there's just so much more to it than,
It goes so much deeper. It's so much. It's more and more of what's happening in your mind than what's happening in your body as you get older.
absolutely.
And to me, like I've got college degrees in education, academia, and stuff. But I tell people, I'm like, if you really study old traditional martial arts, it's it's like having a postdoctorate doctorate if you really start studying it. And
Yep.
people think we're crazy for doing it, but it's a lifelong passion, and
It is.
you know,
It
I
is.
don't, I don't, I don't want to say obsession because that sounds unhealthy, but it's a healthy passion.
Yeah, it is compassion, passion, and even how it changes as our bodies change, right? The way
Yes.
that we think about martial arts when we were in our 20s and we could, kick high and jump high and do things, now I just had a hip replacement surgery because I was
Oh,
suffering.
I hope you're doing good with that because
I
that
am.
happens to a lot of martial artists our age. That happens.
Yeah, it's a miracle of medicine. But it has brought me to a whole new realization about, my martial arts, what my abilities are, how I can teach or not teach things anymore. And,
Yeah.
it's very, sobering. If you think that you're the Superman, uh, you know,
You're only immortal for a little while. That's what my teacher used to say all the time. And then, like something I realized, heard stories and seen videos of, masters, in their 90s out doing forms and training. And I'm like, to me, that's where it's at for me right now. I enjoy it. I love the art. I love the technical aspects, just the tactical, complexities of martial arts. But I'm also liking the physical aspects for health, mental health, physical health, and so that we're not in an old folks home in 5 years.
right.
We're able to keep our bodies moving, we're staying strong, and to me it's important because I have young kids. I want to be able to go out and play with them and
Mhm.
enjoy things, and martial
Right.
arts is really helping me. But you got to change how you train as you get
Yep.
older. You hit different
That was
decades and
the
all
point I
that
was
changes.
making. Yeah.
Man, I'm telling you, you're gonna have to come back on the show. Me and you're gonna have to talk and just talk martial
Absolutely.
arts.
Oh yeah,
You need
we
to
can
come
do
back
that.
on because this is fascinating. The whole sci-fi, I'm loving this.
Well,
And
and our discussion about martial arts is not about kicking and punching. That's the thing I like
yes,
about it. They're advanced concepts, and someone who's just getting started out might think that we're all full of ourselves, but we're these are things that you don't encounter until you got past kicking and punching, right?
yeah, and when you get past that, and I'm going to be very like shallow in the sense of everybody's looking for, like, if you study karate or jujitsu or judo, uses like a belt system, that
Mm-hmm.
black belt goal, and then like all this physical stuff and all these physical abilities you're going to get, and then when you get there, and if you studied a real system that's really traditional, I mean thousands of years of information going back, you look at that, wow, your goalpost just completely changed when you get
Yep.
there,
Yep.
and it keeps going farther, and it creates this humility because now I
Yes.
realize I've done this for years, and I just question. I'm like, I just feel like I don't have long enough to live to scratch the surface of this.
Just
I always tell my students this. I was like, remember when you're studying, our traditions go back thousands of years, and like you're standing on the pillars of giants. You're standing on the people
yes.
who passed this down, and it's thousands of years of information that has been passed down, gathered, almost like the Matrix in a sense, but
Yeah.
but in a good way.
Yeah.
And all this information is encoded in our martial art styles, in
It
our
is.
people, and our instructors, this wisdom, and it creates. I don't know how it creates ego, destroys ego, because you feel it gets so big and you feel like it
So
increases as you
small.
decrease.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you're like, wow.
here's another parallel about what you're talking about. I was promoted. I got all my levels, all my degrees. I'm a 10th degree black belt, right? All of
Is
them
is
were,
that in the Kempo system?
yeah, yeah. My,
The Ed
my,
Ed
my,
Parker or
it's Chinese Kempo.
Chinese Kempo? Okay, I knew
Yeah,
there was like different branches. Okay,
lots of different ones. But my instructor is a 10th grandmaster. He started our component of Chinese Kempo, and I've got all my degrees from him. So all of my 10th degree is there's no question about my ranking. But I reached that in 2012. What's that? 14 years ago. I've never thought that there needed to be any progression beyond that. And so you start to say, well, is there any point to belt ranking? Absolutely, there is. We couldn't get to this state of mind if we didn't have that first black belt to achieve.
Wow.
Right.
I love that.
Right. And you're in the same boat, right? We're not looking to get to 11, 12, 20.
At this point, who cares? And
it's irrelevant. But the first black belt that you got, that first Shodan or whatever it was, it got you to the first part, the first step in that journey, right? We always say at our school that black belt is just the beginning.
It's the first step. Absolutely. Yeah. Wow. You know, you hit this like in the book I was doing with the Tell Two Miyagi's. You know, I'm taking Miyagi's quotes, and Miyagi, you know, Daniel asked him about his belt, and then, you know, the funny answer, he's like, you know, J.C. Penney's, you know, karate is here, meaning it's in your head and in your heart. Right. It's never around your waist. And, you know, original karate was that way. You know, Choji Miyagi, who this was based off of, didn't really even like to give out belts, but Kano come up with something. That's where the belt system come from, was Kano and judo. And it's kind of genius in a sense of, like, when the belts are used right, they're great, because what it is one, it's a way, like, your teacher certified you. Those belts mean more to him, given to, I'm guessing, mean more to him than to you in a sense, because it's a way of he's honoring you as a student. Like, look, I appreciate you studying for me. I appreciate you appreciating me as a teacher. And this is a way of me giving back as a recognition of all the time, the blood, sweat, tears, the hours that people don't know about. And this is a way of, like, honoring someone putting, you know, McDojos, what everybody calls them. Yeah, they give out belts like, you know, Big Macs. You know, you pay your money.
They charge you for it.
Yeah, they charge you for it. You buy your belts, but it's bad. But in a sense that I like the belt systems that, you know, it's a way of a style to recognize this is what a person has put into all this and everything. So let's talk a little bit about the martial arts, maybe just a little.
Sure.
I think we'll step forward. And
I mean, we have been, but that's fine.
it come up. That's what I was saying. We would digress into martial arts because we're getting.
It's not a digression.
We're two old martial art relics, is what I say. We're like antique martial art equipment. So we've got to talk about the good old days.
Yep.
So you said you studied Chinese Kempo. You've been doing that probably most of your life. Eskrima, which is the Filipino martial art.
Yep.
And the whole Karate Kid thing was just still an enigma to me, because my dad had, you know, studied from Miyagi students.
Right.
And I studied that, and I grew up. I mean, a lot of people joke I'm half Jewish Asian, because my dad taught me Japanese. I later studied from Chinese instructors, and
I'll have you know this. My wife is Jewish. So my kid, yes. Also talk my kids, she calls them flus.
Shoot me on this, but I know a lot of Filipino close friends. My book editor, Kathy, she's Filipino, so I grew up eating. Not grew up, like around her for years, eating adobo, sinigang, lumpia. I love Filipino food. But we were joking about, like, Rob Schneider, who's a famous Filipino and Jewish, and we call them Jupinos.
Oh, okay, or jalapenos, right?
Yeah. So when I met Rob Schneider, I was talking with him, and so I was like, Shalom, Mashalonka. So I spoke Hebrew, and I went right into Tagalog. I was like, ¿Cómo está acá? And he just looked at me, and it took a while to register, and he just started dying laughing.
He's great. I love him. And there was actually, I can't remember what the name of the movie was, but there's a movie where he shows off a lot of his Filipino stick fighting. He's like in prison, and he gets in a fight. It's like, wow, that guy's a good martial artist, you know?
Yeah. And in person, he's such a interesting guy to talk to. Really funny in person. Funny. Really nice guy. So we'll do the martial arts. I just want to ask a few questions, short, and then fans watching this, you've seen how interesting this conversation. It's blown my mind, by the way, this morning. I've loved this conversation we've had about Darryl's book. We're going to get him back on, and we're going to talk heavier about martial arts, but we're just going to hit a few things, because I just want to ask the crane kick.
Yes.
I just want to go into this because, and most of you already know by now, this guy was stunt double for Miyagi. Fumio Demuro done, I think, a lot of the fight scenes. You
Yeah,
done some of the stunt work, and
yeah,
you were one of the main semifinalists. I have to tell you this. When I first watched The Karate Kid in '84, and I've been doing martial arts, since '77.
okay,
Straight from my dad, who off the boat from Japan studied
right,
off of the '60s. My dad was an amazing martial artist, so I knew a lot about martial arts and especially Miyagi karate. So
right,
I'm sitting there
right.
watching it with my dad, and so the tournament comes up, and I've talked. I mean, I've met Billy Zabka many times, Ralph Macchio. I met Pat Johnson way back in the circuits when I was doing the martial arts circuits when he was
Mhm.
recruiting people for all the movies and
Right.
everything.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I think first time I met him was down in the Battle of Atlanta when they used to do the big sport karate tournaments there
Okay.
and stuff. But so when I was watching the Karate Kid, and I was watching, and I was like, you could tell that Billy Zabka kind of started studying a little bit, but hadn't studied much. You could tell Ralph Macchio had never studied, and I don't think he still has. I love Ralph, but I don't think he still studies any martial arts. He's he's a great actor and a great guy, but
Yeah.
he's not a martial art guru like we are. But when I seen this guy and watching Karate Kid out there on that mat moving with this praying mantis patch on his back, I was like, that guy has studied martial arts. I was like, wow. I was like, this guy can move. Unlike the actors, they were training to move. This
Right.
guy is trained.
Yeah.
And so I knew nothing about you until later. And but I could tell how you were balanced, how you moved, how you composed yourself, all the
Mhm.
things that a martial artist, only a trained martial
Right.
artist and a
Right.
good one could move
Right.
the way you moved.
Could
So I
see
was
that.
just like
Yeah.
blown away. So I was like, wow, this guy knows. And later on, after the internet come out, I researched you and I was like, wow, I was right.
You
Like,
were right.
this guy,
Right.
yeah, this guy's a lifelong martial artist. But just like, to me, you brought the reality of how you moved because that's what I was expecting to see in the movie, which made it really good seeing a good martial artist there fighting on the mat.
Well, I will tell you that John Alvinson, the director, specifically brought me in to do that.
Good.
I even have an autograph from him. I had him sign my original script from the Karate Kid, and he says, I can't remember the exact quote, something about you brought the realism to the Karate Kid.
You did.
And yeah, well, I appreciate that, and of course, as martial artists, I know exactly what you're talking about. They trained for 6 weeks,
Yeah.
and so
But
that's where
that's what made it real though, because the whole story is this kid from New York who's not necessarily the most coordinated, and never done martial arts. I mean, except at the YMCA, according to the story, but just didn't know what he was doing. And for Miyagi to take him, Mr. Miyagi took him and prepared him in just a short amount of time to fight these kids that have been training for years.
right.
That's the whole story of like how good of a teacher he was, how good the style was, and the beauty of like just passing on knowledge. And it's just that's what sold the story. It was him
Yeah,
not being able to move good
right.
in the fight
At so
scenes.
many levels, though, right? At so many levels.
Yeah, yeah, him not knowing what he was doing and everything. And it's just, but seeing you there is what really sold the movie to me, and
Yeah, I
my dad as
appreciate that.
well watching it. And I was like, I didn't know one day, 30 or 40 years later, I'd be talking to you. So it's a small, strange world. So
Yeah.
I got to ask this: the crane kick,
Hmm.
and I've obviously in my book I've done a lot of research on my Tell Two Miyagi's book of behind the scenes, what's happening and things. You know way more than I do still about it, but mine's mainly comparing the two Miyagis of what they said. The real Miyagi in the movie. So the crane kick, what happened there? I think from what I've read or heard around roundabout that you created the idea for it or
Okay.
created
So
that for it. What
let
give
me
us the
give you
story
the
of this because I'm so interested.
let me give you the right story because there's so many different ones. It is me on the post on the beach, and
Can I stop you right there? I have to
yeah,
say something. You on that post were in probably one of the most iconic martial arts scenes of my generation.
who would
And
have
I will
known?
argue that, and I will tell you this because people's like, how influential is Karate Kid? anybody, if I walk down Boston and say wax on, wax off, what movie? Everybody will say Karate Kid.
Right.
Even on the poster, I got the poster over here on my wall. I'm looking at you. Like,
well, you're
were in,
probably
like,
looking at Ralph because
wait, yeah, the poster was Ralph. That's right. That's right.
The poster
But
Ralph.
actually filmed you as Miyagi. Did you know how iconic?
Oh,
Like, that was,
no,
my
there's
gosh.
no way we could have known that. Even John Alvinson, I asked him that 20 years later, 30 years later, I asked him, did you ever know how, amazing, how deep this movie would be? And he said, not in a million years. Remember, this is the guy that won an Oscar for Rocky. So, but okay, let's get back to the crane kick. So they brought me in. I got actually discovered at a karate tournament. They came to scout in Los Angeles, and I was doing kata and getting and fighting. And during that time, as a black belt, I was pretty dominant. I could do a kata that had all those spinning and jumping kicks in it, and typically I would win that kata division. And then when we would fight, and I was pretty good fighter at the time. You didn't win every time, but I definitely had things going on there. And they were scouting, and they saw me win, and they came up to me and said, "How would you like to get a movie?" So, I mean, that's
Wow.
that's literally how it happened. I have actually talked to the guy who was sitting next to me when it happened. I talked to him, years later, and we just had a little chit chat about how he was sitting there listening. What a great story that was. But so after that happened, they brought me into the sound stages for rehearsals. There was no audition. They basically said, "This is the guy. We're bringing him in." We started doing daily training with all the Cobra Kai guys. So I was kind of training with them and seeing how Pat Johnson was, doing more or less tuxedo style training. And then they told me that they wanted me involved in another piece that Fumio couldn't do because it was on top of this post. So they said, "We want you to do this crane kick." And I said, "What's a crane kick?" It's like, well, Ralph is going to get, or the kid is going to get his leg injured. So he has to stand on one leg. And then you put your arms out like this, like a bird, like a crane. My first response is, well, why would you ever do that? And they came back with, because it's the crane kick. I said, okay, I better shut my mouth and do what I'm told. So that's what I did. I stood out with my arms like this, and then he said, "You're gonna stand on one leg, jump, kick, and land on that same leg." And I go, okay, let me try it. And so I kind of went off and practiced. And you can't really do that without running and jumping off the one. So, basically, it's a double jump kick, right? It's a front kick, knee up, front kick. Yeah, that we all did. Everybody did that in their karate, right? There's Mayatobe Gary, I think is what they call it, Japanese.
Yeah, flying front kick. And it's actually in the Super Impe, Goju Kata, the double jump kick. So it is in the Miyagi system.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, so there's, that's part of my book coming.
There's bases to it, yeah.
Yeah, but, so in super impact, but you don't stand there. Oh, I'm waiting for you to come up, and I'm gonna walk into my kick.
Right, I don't
turn, and then
I
you
don't
jump
stand
kick.
there, right? So, but I told him, I convinced him that the double jump kick was the way to do it, and I said, "Look, I do it like this," and I just move back real fast. They said, "Okay, that looks good," and they said, "But you got to do something with your hands, So I was studying Wing Chun at the time, so I used this low Wing Chun guard like this. And I said, okay, what if I go here, come down, come up nice and high, hold the crane kick like this, and then do it? They said, that's it. So that's the crane kick.
So you created all the motions.
Yeah, all the stuff that led up
Love
to
it.
But then it's a double jump kick. Yeah, that's how it came about.
Wow, that's completely amazing. It's just, my mind is blown, like how all that come about. But I'm sure you had no idea people would still be talking about a crane kick.
Are you kidding?
Years later.
Even and Ralph talks about it in his book. Even the name, the Karate Kid, sounds hokey, right? It's like, what? What is this, a comic book? But here we are 40 years later, and it is just an amazing phenomenon, worldwide. Everyone knows it. And then with Cobra Kai coming out, or it when its run that it's had, no one could have.
Yeah, it's amazing how, and even going to conventions and stuff, because I'm a guest at a lot of shows. I'll see Ralph Macchio there, Billy Zabka, Martin Cove, and
Mhm.
I'll go talk to them and things, and I'll talk martial arts and stuff. It's amazing seeing their lines and how many people are coming out to
Oh
see
man,
them after, and these
oh
are
yeah,
younger generation because of
yeah,
Cobra Kai, older generation,
yeah.
it's just mind blowing how big that still is. And I'm telling you, like, we've got to do another show and get you on here because I want to talk about some of the martial arts into, the Karate Kid and stuff, and kind of give some of my perspective from Japanese
Sure,
language and
love to
what the
do it.
real Miyagi said. It's kind of it fits so well. It almost starts scaring me. I'm like, did Kamen research all this, or he's just really
He,
good creatively writing?
well, I
Because
think there's both of that. He did a ton of research.
yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know if you're familiar with, and I told Ralph Macchio this when we were talking one time. I was like, everything you did as the chores in the Japanese, his little Japanese garden in the
mm,
back, and this is, I said the real Miyagi trained people in his garden out back, and he had them do chores.
okay. Well, see,
This actually
I
really
didn't know
happened.
that. That
Yeah,
that's
and
great.
it was kind of funny when I first talked to William Zabka and Ralph and Martin. They didn't even know Kamen based this off of. They didn't know who Chojo Miyagi was. I was the one who told them. I was like, "There's a real guy," and
Yeah.
so I mailed Martin Cove. He's like, send me all this. So he's Jewish. So he seen that I had a kippah on that was made in Israel. So I mailed these Israeli kippahs out to his kids for their bar mitzvahs and stuff. And I sent him all this information on the real Miyagi. So when I met Ralph, I don't know if you're familiar with any of the Okinawan forms, Tensho. Ten,
I don't. Yeah.
Tensho Kata, move for move, is every training apparatus he done. Like the first move in Tensho, like one of the moves is this, which is paint the fence. I'm doing
Yeah.
it just like Tensho Kata, with
Right.
the way the real
Okay.
Miyagi done it.
All right.
What's this? Paint the house. What's next? Sand the floor. There's a move where you turn and you walk down. It's used just like sand the floor. And then Mawashi Uke, which is wax on, wax off. Every move of Tensho Kata
On the floor.
is in the training. And I told Ralph that, and his eyes got really big. And I was like, and we'll get into this other time because I told Ralph stuff. It was stuff my dad only knew because of the way my dad
Right.
taught. His teacher pulled him and another guy aside, and he said, "Let me show you some pre-World War II. This is real Okinawan karate." And I told Ralph this story. I was like, "There's a deadlier aspects to this they won't teach out openly." My dad got all this stuff. And Ralph's like, "We should use this." And I was like, "Sure." I mean, you had to get a hold of me, but I think I forgot to put my number on there. But anyways, when season three, like when they went to Okinawa,
Yeah.
what's the story? We don't teach these secret techniques
Right.
to anyone. It's exact
Exactly.
everything I told him. So it was like, my dad passed away not long after that, and
Yeah.
or
Sorry to hear
actually,
that.
so it was like his legacy
Uh-huh.
was now intertwined with Cobra
Wow.
Kai because whether Ralph did that intentionally or not, it's the exact same story I told him, and I was like, wow, this is awesome.
Yeah, I'm
Like
gonna
it was
have
actually
to get with you and learn that kata.
you know what? Anytime I do video teaching all the time, and
Yeah.
you could show me some Eskrima because to be honest with you, I would
Yeah.
love to actually learn real Eskrima because there's
Yeah.
a lot of people teaches it that doesn't, you know. But
Right.
I'll teach you the old pre World War II version of Tensho, the old one.
All right.
It's
Well, yeah.
you
I
love
mean,
it.
the one that includes all those moves. That way
Yes,
there's a whole nother aspect to it.
yeah.
I knew that it was brought from somewhere, and Mark Kamen, he's
He was a
exhaustive.
genius.
He's
Yeah.
exhaustive in his research. So, and when
See,
last time I talked to him, he was studying like Bagua or something that I
yeah,
had never
I
even
studied
heard of.
Bagua for years.
Yeah,
Mark Hamill was a genius with some
yeah,
stuff. The uh, one thing I'll say because we got to start wrapping up because we
right.
could just keep on going. When I was talking to Ralph, I was like, well, the movements for this. There's one guy, his name's Bok Ko. He's in Canada. He's a master. He's 5 ancestors, White Crane. they have a crane set that is Tensho move for move. That was the Okinawan version. I learned from the Lee family, Lee Sal's ancestors, or the ancestors of Lee Sal, who created the five animals of Shaolin. The family still teaches the original set. So there's a black crane system.
Okay.
And that's when Higiona told Choji Miyagi, go to Fujian and learn more stuff and bring back to Okinawa. Back with Tensho. Okay. I told Ralph this, I said, I have the crane set that he learned. Like it's move for move. And like I said, there's another teacher, Bako, in Canada that has a similar set. And I know these were linked in one of the temples somewhere. So almost the same ideas and stuff. And that's another reason why in Cobra Kai, the crane scroll showed up with those secret moves. Right. Because I was telling Ralph all that and everything. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. So I was, and people thought I worked on Cobra Kai because I told Ralph all this. And people were like, did you work on it? I was like, no, I did not directly work on this, but I think I probably influenced it somewhat because, everything I said showed up in there. And I was just so happy now my dad's legacy, but that's the reason I'm writing the book and everything. Right. But we probably got to wrap up. I've held you. This conversation has been one of the more interesting conversations that I've had in months with anybody. This has been great. It's been fun. Very informative. And like I said, if I'm really invitation, let's get back on.
Yeah, let's do it.
Do another show. We'll also plug your book again on the show and say, hey, look, this is all tied, but now we're going to hit the martial art aspect of this. And because I really want to pick your brain on behind the scenes and things and stuff, because I'm still in the middle of writing my book and I may use some of your quotes and things. If that's okay.
Let's do it. Yeah. Appreciate that.
Let's talk and everything. So Schmooze or Lose fans, look, this has been, you've just seen one of the most amazing interviews I've done. Very informative. We've just talked to Darryl Vidal. This guy's amazing. He's got, such a wonderful life you've had and such an interesting person. You're a polymath. You're into so many things and not just shallow. You're very deep into these things, and it's just amazing to talk to you. Yep. And it was an honor for me to have you on the show.
No, I'm humbled and honored myself to talk with people like you who have as much experience as I do, if not more. So yeah, it's great.
It's been amazing. So we're going to sign off, and like I said, stay tuned. Hopefully in a week. I mean, if you're good, I'm good.
You've got my email. Let me know when's a good window to do it. This time works for me.
So you guys watching, we'll put this up, and we'll tell you when this is the next interview is going to happen. Also, look for his book. You've watched this. There's no reason you shouldn't go out and buy it and have it in every school and college. This is a needed piece of education, I think, that needs to go out. I love it. Yep. Wow, I want to, before I get off here, I need a signed copy of the book. I'm sending you some money. Mail me the book and send me an autograph too.
Actually, if you don't mind, I plug my social media. You can reach me now. Yeah, like you just did on Vidal Kempo. That's my Facebook. That's my outside facing Facebook is Vidal Kempo. And I have a link tree in there, and I have a merchandise site. And I'm going to have the books on sale or with an autograph that you'll be able to get.
Oh, that's what I want. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I have merchandise. I have pictures that can be autographed. And reach out.
And we're going to get you up here on the Comic-Con circuit up here in New England at some point. And get you to do some shows. People would love you up here. Yeah. I mean, just the whole history of Karate Kid, this amazing book you got coming out. You would be a hit at the shows up here. Absolutely.
Okay. Well, I'll hold you to it.
Okay. We're signing off. Thank you, Schmooze or Lose fans.
All right.
Everybody be blessed.
Bye.